Hey everyone, my name is Scott Schwieger. I'm the editor of Combined Cycle Journal. In a very challenging year for the power generation industry, we finally have some great news to report in this December. Today I'm joined by Jeff Bowes of NOXCO. He's the president and CEO of this new company that is offering total emissions compliance solutions for the gas turbine-based power plants.
Yeah, Scott, thanks. Think about it as an LTSA for emissions compliance. We all know you guys are familiar with your LTSAs for your, gas turbines, be it Siemens or GE or an aftermarket. This is basically an aftermarket LTSA for emissions compliance. So we'll take care of everything, ensure that you're in compliance for your CO emissions, for your NOx emissions, for your ammonia slip. We'll keep you within those parameters. It's a 10-year LTSA. All maintenance is included, all testing is included, all engineering is included, all catalyst replacements are included, everything is included, start to finish. You don't have to worry about any of it. And we're also trying to help, the owners and the operators sort of, have a fixed cost on their budget every year when it comes to emissions compliance. So one of the biggest struggles that I think the industry faces, I think investors face it. I think, the plant manager and the O&M managers face it. The biggest thing everybody struggles with really is you have, years 1 through 5 of a catalyst system cost you $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year. And then you get to year 6 or 7 and you're spending $1.5 million on a new catalyst and replacement and everything else. And, yes, it's CapEx, yes, it kind of hits that below the line system, within the financing calculator. But the struggle is that, you've got this big blip on the radar screen. And, how do you sort of, as an investor, that's a big number to kind of try and manage. But imagine if rather than having a big blip on the radar screen, on a GE 7FA, if your cost was $200,000 a year for 10 years for your entire catalyst system, you don't have to worry about it anymore. You don't have to play the guessing game anymore on, when is my catalyst going to fail? When do I need to replace it? When is the end of life? Well, end of life might be in 12 months. It might be in 6 months. What happens if I have an emissions diversion, in the middle of summer? What do I do about it? We take all that risk. We take all that risk away from the plant, especially when you deal with these aging assets. I think that's the other kind of problem, Scott, is you've got all these aging assets out there, that just costs more and more money every year to maintain and keep in compliance. And we take care of all that for you. I think the risk is really the biggest thing for these plants that they're going to love to offload. And I think for the investors, right? I think if you could take a plant and guarantee emissions compliance for the next 10 years, for the investor, that means a lot. It's a big check mark. When it comes time to sell that asset, and they sell it to a different investor, part of the due diligence process is what does my emissions compliance look like? What does that catalyst look like? When do I have to think about replacing it? They don't have to worry about that anymore. And I think when you go to buy and sell a power plant, I think that's a big check mark for these guys in the due diligence side of things.
That's really interesting, Jeff. The CCJ is all about the owner operator. So let's play a little devil's advocate. I'm a plant manager. And I'm very diligent in taking care of my catalyst system. And why would I choose NOXCO as a total solutions provider when I can when I'm already doing everything I think is necessary to do for my system?
Because I think also what NOXCO brings to the table is over 100 years of emissions compliance experience within the power industry. And when you take that and you apply that to, a power plant and we take all the risk, it's in our best interest to help the plant manage that asset probably better than they were before, to be honest with you, Scott. We're going to come in and we're going to train their operators on how to run those systems more efficiently. Okay. We're going to come in there and we're going to test a lot more often than probably the plant tested before. Okay, we're going to come in and probably clean that catalyst, and maybe the plant never cleaned their catalyst before. Maybe they felt like it didn't need cleaning, right? And we're going to maximize the life cycle of that asset. We're going to get it to run more efficiently. Maybe we're going to see some ammonia savings down the road, right? We're going to tune your system. We're going to get it to run as efficiently as possible. We're going to do all those things that maybe a guy hasn't been doing because he can't get the budget for it, or it's not as cost effective as he hopes it would be. Our goal at the end of the day is basically to be able to provide you with this 10-year contract, this 10-year LTSA, and $200,000 a year is what it's going to cost you for 10 years, let's say. So over 10 years, it's going to be a $10 million outlay or $2 million outlay to the plant. Well, at that $2 million outlay, that's what the plant was already spending on their catalyst system and their emissions compliance over that 10-year period anyway. It's not going to cost the plant any more money, okay? We're going to see some savings. We're going to run it more efficiently. We're going to pull money, potentially for some guys. We're going to pull it out of CapEx and put it into OpEx, which a lot of folks like to see, right? Some of the finance guys like to see a change in sort of how the financing on the plant is done. We can offer that as well. We're back also by a $30 million bonding capacity. So, for some of those guys that are a little bit concerned about, well, what's the financial preparedness of NOXCO? What can these guys do? We've got a big bonding capacity behind us. And, I think really at the end of the day, what NOXCO does really well for these guys is it kind of flips the entire industry on its head when it thinks about emissions compliance. I know that there are a lot of owner operators out there that have, corporate behind them, and maybe they've got an SCR catalyst, sort of expert engineer that is housed at corporate that provides them support. But I think, Scott, there's a lot of guys in the industry that don't have that, right? And they sort of, it's not rotating equipment, right? It's not a turbine. It's not a pump. It's not a filter package, right? It's not something that for a lot of guys, they can wrap their head around. For a lot of guys in the industry, let's face it, the emissions compliance is a black box, right? I can't tell you, how many times I've been to a plant and, even trying to understand who the manufacturer of their SCR catalyst is very difficult, right? They just don't know. It's not rotating equipment. So what we do is we take the guesswork out of it for them. Let us manage your system. Let us de-risk it for you. Let us train your operators. You're going to see us every 6 to 12 months. We're going to be in that plant. We're going to be pulling data. We're going to be running data, analyzing all your emissions data, looking at it. We're going to be cleaning the catalyst. We're going to be testing the catalyst. We're going to be tuning your AIG. We're going to be doing all of those things for your system. You just don't have to worry about it anymore. Your biggest concern is going to be, me calling you up in January of that year and saying, hey, here's what we have on track for this year. Here's what we're going to do. When's your HRSG outage in the spring? When's your HRSG outage in the fall? So we can schedule these items. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And I think for a lot of guys with that black box kind of mentality, to be able to sort of take that responsibility off their plate, when, let's be honest, Scott, the owner operator, they've got less guys at the plant than they've ever had before, right? We go back 10 years, they probably had, let's call it a 2-on-1, 1,000 megawatt facility, right? Just for round number's sake. Let's call it 1,000 megawatt, 2-on-1 gas turbine facility. They probably had, 8 operators on staff. They probably had a plant manager, an O&M manager, maybe a plant engineer if they were lucky, right? Maybe a maintenance planner if they were lucky, maybe a receptionist if he's lucky, right? I mean, that's just, maybe some of the office staff. And then maybe he's got 8 operators. Maybe he's lucky enough to have 6 mechanics. I mean, these owner operators today, I've seen plants that only have 2 mechanics left, right? Like, how do you do all this stuff, maintain all this stuff, be responsible for, billions, millions, maybe billions of dollars worth of assets with not many people, right? And so with a company like us, we come in, we take all that risk, we take all that responsibility, we take all that management on. So you guys are freed up to run the plant, and do what you got to do. And I think for a lot of guys I think that's going to speak volumes. If you're looking at the same, 10-year layout and cash for that emission system, and you're going to do it for the same amount of money and manage it and de-risk it and take on that compliance for the plant. I mean, I don't know. You'd be hard pressed to convince me that for the owner operator, it's not a really, really, really good idea.
No, I totally agree. So if I am one of these really lean staffed gas turbine facilities, I don't have an EHS manager or anybody like that on staff. I've got 10 total employees. So what do I do? How do I can't just hand you over my system. How does NOXCO evaluate, and what is the process that we have to go through in order to, in effect, hand over our entire emission system to NOXCO?
It's actually a pretty simple process. I don't ask much for the plant. I would ask them when their next, outage is. We'd come in with our engineers. We do an overall system assessment. We'd have a short questionnaire that we'd have to answer. How many units, how many turbines, what's your stack compliance look like? We'll ask for some run data from the control room operator. Looking at some minute and hourly data over the last 6 months, trying to catch, the winter and summer run in there and look at the different profiles of what the turbine's putting out. And beyond that, that's it. Then it's up to my engineering staff to put it all together and run the assessment. And then we come back with, what the LTSA looks like. I'll come back with a pro forma LTSA that lays out the pricing over the next 10 years. And, we can sit down and talk about it. We've no problem talking to the investors of the plant, the finance and CFO of the plant, all those guys that are involved. We can talk to the risk people as well for the facility and talk about, that part of the LTSA. We talk to the attorneys and work out all the legal piece of it. It's, we'll take care of it. I'd probably say from start to finish, if you called me tomorrow and say, hey, we're interested in NOXCO, we're interested in this 10-year, emissions compliance program for our facility, I'm probably going to say realistically from start to finish, it's about 4 to 6 months. By the time we do our assessments, provide you the documents, we go through legal and finance and all the different pieces of it, it's probably a 4 to 6 month turnaround in total to get it up and running.
Take us, if you could, can you take us through, each component of the emission system and the services that you provide as the, as the long-term service provider?
Yeah, so we'll take care of the ammonia vaporizer, the ammonia delivery system. So that would include the ammonia vaporizer, the ammonia injection grid. We'll take care of the CO catalyst framework, SCR catalyst and framework, all of the sealing of both catalyst systems. We'll take care of disposal and or reclamation of the catalyst, depending on which catalyst we're talking about. We'll take care of providing tuning throughout a couple times over that 10-year life cycle to make sure the system is running efficiently. Like I talked about before, we'll take care of providing a half-day training for all the operators so that they understand what sort of a lot of guys don't seem to. One of the biggest issues I think we have with the, sometimes the operators in these facilities is, they've got let's say they got a 2.0 ppm stack permit of NOx at the stack. These guys will set the limit at 1.8 or 1.75, right? Because they want to give themselves some leeway. Well, most of the logic in these systems don't require that big of a leeway. You can set the point at 1.95 and you'll still be fine at 2.0 all day long. And sort of providing that training and providing some of that, that expertise that we bring to the table for these operators, I think would be fantastic. And I think the plants would really see the benefits of all that. When it comes time to replace the catalyst, we'll provide a new catalyst. We'll install that new catalyst. It's all included, soup to nuts. They don't have to worry about their system anymore. It's all on my shoulders and it's all on NOXCO shoulders. And this is what we do every day.